In just 4 years, Hamish went from having nothing to managing 16 tenants across a mix of commercial and apartment blocks. No inheritance, no handouts, just strategic buying, smart structures, and a relentless work ethic. In this episode, we're diving into another real client portfolio breakdown. And today, we're joined by Hamish, who went from never investing in property to building a high-performing residential and commercial portfolio with over $2 million in equity and 5-figure positive cash flow.
I was nowhere, absolutely fucking nowhere. You know, I had 200K in my bank account just because I'd got superannuation after I left New Zealand, but I was nowhere. Just going down this journey and then obviously meeting yourself and understand the commercial, the opportunities in the commercial world's just the doors that's opened. This one commercial property is life-changing. I'm at that point now where I don't actually believe in a career. I don't care about my career anymore. All I want to do is just buy more property.
What makes Hamish's story unique is that it didn't start with a 10-year plan or perfect strategy. It started with a beer, a mate, and a wake-up call about money being left on the table. In this podcast, we'll unpack why commercial property became the only viable path to keep buying after hitting borrowing limits with residential, how he and his investing partner doubled the value of a Perth industrial property in just 3 years whilst doing nothing, and the funding structures, the mindset shifts that allowed him to scale without relying on personal savings.
What we got out of Palise property was life-changing. I mean, that property has doubled. We're pretty confident property investors, but we will absolutely be coming back to you.
Whether you're stuck at a debt ceiling, curious about combining resi and commercial, or just want to hear what real investors are actually doing behind the scenes, this episode will give you a ton of insight. Let's get into it. Hey guys, today we've got one of our client portfolio breakdowns, and on the couch with me today, I've got Hamish. Thanks for coming in, mate. Really appreciate it. Today we're just going to go through generally your journey because it's a bit of a different one. You've got some awesome results as well, and not just in commercial as well, which we'll touch on in resi, but thanks for joining me, and yeah, let's get into it.
Pleasure to be here, Steve.
That's right. Do you want to start from the beginning? Just let's go deep. Let's go early childhood into work, then how we got into property, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, okay. So I've never actually ever been into property. My dad was pretty anti-property. Most of the people I spoke to were quite anti. He was a business owner. He was just, everything was about investing in his business and creating employment and growing it was actually a shoe manufacturer in New Zealand, so in Christchurch in New Zealand. So I grew up around.
He was in a commercial property though?
Yeah, no, he owned a lot of commercial property. Dad owned.
Or only where the business was operating?
Just where the business was. So he owned quite a few premises over the years, but my dad never sort of looked at property as a tool to make money or anything like that. He was quite anti it. So it just sort of played on me, and so I never really invested in property, even though everyone around me was. I remember in Auckland when I worked at Air New Zealand, I was an engineer there, and all the guys I work with, they were just buying property. They were always saying, "Oh, you should buy this," and it was a really big thing. And I don't know why I didn't jump into it. Was
it culturally big over in New Zealand?
And that's actually a really interesting question, Steve, because New Zealand and Australia are very similar with property. In fact, I'd almost say they're almost exactly the same. Maybe New Zealand's more property driven than Australia actually, and that's because Australia just has more taxes around property. Like New Zealand doesn't have stamp duty, doesn't have capital gains tax, doesn't really have any taxes on property at all. And so property in New Zealand is very expensive. And commercial, for example, just it doesn't stack up like it does here. And I remember moving here 2019 and just going, far out, the property's so cheap everywhere. I just couldn't believe how cheap property was, apart from Sydney. Obviously Sydney is one of the world's premier cities. It's never going to be cheap.
Still 12 years ago, and I bought my first one, Sydney's West, you could buy a house for 350 grand. And I remember at the time that was expensive.
I remember coming. I've been coming to Sydney for 25 years. My mum's lived here since 2000 or 99. So I know Sydney pretty well, and you could buy terraces in Redfern. Gosh, after the Olympics, 300K. You could buy unrenovated stuff, 250K. Good luck paying that today. I never was really into property at all. And then I moved to Australia, and then I guess COVID happened, and that for a lot of people was a bit of a reset and sort of gave a lot of people an opportunity to kind of look at what they're doing. And One of my old friends lived over here, and we'd been friends probably 25 years. Gareth's an accountant, so he's obviously very good with numbers and things like that. And we got together, we're having a couple of beers, and with another friend of ours who's very successful business owner and owns a lot of property. And I remember Chris, we went for a drive, we went out to I think Wiseman's Ferry or something like that, and we had lunch, and sort of Chris laid down the law and just basically said, you guys need to start buying some property. And then literally we were booking flights and stuff that afternoon to places to look at property. And so we actually settled on, we're looking for yield, we're chasing yield, and we couldn't understand why people would buy residential houses. We're like, doesn't make enough money. Then we found unit blocks, and we thought, why don't we just buy the whole unit block? So we started looking into that, and we bought a unit block in Albury.
Let's take a step back, actually, because not many people do property investing with a friend. A lot of people do it with a brother or like a parent or something like that.
Yep.
Did you have a good, honest chat? Because you've bought multiple properties with Gareth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have like an honest chat at the start about, cool, this is how it's going to work. Here's a 3, 5, 10 year. Or was it at the time, was it just let's have a crack together and don't worry about the rest?
There hasn't been there has been a lot of planning, but there hasn't been a huge amount of planning from the start. We were just like, let's get cracking. Do the numbers make sense? Obviously, Gareth's really good with that sort of stuff. Yeah. And then I did the talking, I did the negotiating, and we landed this property. And we found a really, really good property manager as well. So we're very lucky in that sense. Had some good tenants, and that. We didn't really think that property would move up in value or anything. It was more just a yield play, and to get and then you get a lot of bad advice, when you're first starting out. You don't.
So the first one was an apartment block for you guys.
Yeah, it was just a 3x2 unit block. We didn't realise at the time, but it was a corner site. We didn't realise. Hey, that's really good to go for a corner site. And obviously we look for corner sites now.
How much was this and where was it again?
It was 630,000 in Lavington. So just, in Albury, Wodonga area.
Good spot.
But great spot, not really in an area with lots of other unit blocks. So that was quite good. But we we put 10% down and we paid stamp and we had all this other money. So we basically combined money that we both had.
We were at the time, you got that 10% deposit because it was under 3 units?
So we managed to do the 10% deposit because Gareth was an accountant. So we could avoid paying an LMI fee because of his professional background being an accountant, a chartered accountant. So we didn't have to pay LMI, and we thought, we just used $70,000 to make this purchase. So we thought we could just keep going and just keep doing these 10% down deals and just keep buying.
If that was 4 units, lenders consider it a commercial loan. So you can't even do 90%. So some lenders do 3 units. So I imagine you got into that one.
Look, it's interesting because, it just depends on what side of the bed the lender wakes up on.
Yeah, okay.
Like some lenders will do 3, some will do 4, some will do 5. Depends on the strata as well. If they're strata, it actually makes it harder.
Yep.
And I'm actually buying a unit block right now. It's strated and we're having a bit of a challenge actually getting one lender to fund all 4 units, even though this lender was happy to fund a unit block last year that was 4 units.
All right, let's get to that one.
Yeah, we'll get to that one later. But anyway, and so we just thought we could keep buying. We were sort of a bit green. We only spoke to one mortgage broker, and he was okay, but he basically said, you guys, you're going to hit a debt ceiling. You can't go any further, until you get your incomes up or anything like that. And we thought, that was a bit of a shock to us. So we did some digging, and Gareth went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and he was like, we need to buy commercial. We need to sandwich, our property purchases. So we'll buy commercial, then we'll go back and buy a resi, then we'll buy commercial. We're going to have to create a company structure to do this because otherwise it's going to be hard to get the finance. We're going to have to pay a high, a large deposit, which really impacts your cash on cash returns. Obviously, the higher your deposit, the less cash on cash return you're going to get. So we found a broker, and she talked us through, what we need to do, and then we started engaging buyers agents for commercial property because we just, for commercial property, there's a lot more to learn than residential. It's just there's so much more to do, so much more due diligence. Residential's easy, commercial's certainly you need your hand held a bit more.
So it was Gareth the firelighter for commercial, basically.
Yeah,
being like,
Gareth
hey,
was the firelighter for that. He was, he was like, no, we need to buy commercial, and he went down that rabbit hole. So we started engaging buyers agents, and like we spoke to all the big buyers agents in 2022. And we just got the best feeling from Palise Property, from yourself, Steve. We felt that you committed your time to us and meeting with us, and we felt we were getting looked after, and the properties that we were getting sent were good quality properties. And then Liam found us this cracker property in Perth, and we had all the funding, had all the finance lined up, the company structure, things like that. So we pressed go, and like a lot of work to get the whole approval, get the finance, some fairly stressful days. But, we got there in the end, and, getting that first sort of owner's receipt, and then seeing the mortgage payment going out and going, oh wow, there's like $700 like surplus here.
It's an account that you just ignore.
Yeah, we'll ignore it, and we'll just keep tipping money into maintenance into the unit block. And so this thing we just kind of forgot about it. And we obviously we attended the strata meetings to see what's going on. There's always a few things you just have to keep an eye on. But generally, all the outgoings are paid for by the tenant.
Let's maybe touch on the details. So I think we got it was about 830 grand, I think, from memory, 2022. I think we got a bit off as part of due diligence.
Yeah, I think it was, they were asking 860. It was a really good tenant, multinational tenant. Now the actual warehouse was, I think it was 597 square meters off the top of my head, and then it obviously had a decent sort of office in the front, a big roller door, things like that. It was the sort of property you look for.
A good tick the box one. I know you were saying, oh, Liam got me a great one. We got a good price, but we'll go into later why that price, getting an extra 10, 20 grand off the purchase price, not a huge factor in the grand scheme of things. And it was just a good versatile warehouse, about a 6.3% net yield at the time in 2022. So you've been with body corporate meetings, and then just letting it kind of go on since then.
It just sort of, it just sort of looks after itself, and then got repainted, which really...
the outside of the building?
The outside of the building got painted. And
body,
I actually
body corporate cover that?
Yeah, the body corporate covered it, and that's the beauty about... commercial property is just these absolute net leases. You're just not paying for anything. It's you're basically paying for your mortgage or your finance, and that's it.
It's a good point. So I get a lot of clients that say, oh, I want freestanding. It's got to be a freestanding warehouse. There are benefits to having body corporate that where you didn't have to dip in. They've got an admin sinking fund. Cool. They cover the painting. Happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
That all the strata, the management, all that's paid for by the tenant. So it's a non-event, and that's a classic set and forget investment. Literally, we bought that 3 years ago, and we have had to do nothing. Yeah. And I look at all the residential properties I've got today, and they are work.
Yeah.
They are a lot of work.
We had this chat off air about like how it's all good in the bed. There's more. We concluded that yes, the work's there, but in the grand scheme of things like the maintenance on an apartment block, for instance, it's annoying. But when the property's growing 150 grand a year, who cares? Who cares if you're annoyed once a month by a property manager pestering you about some leaking taps or replacing carpet? Exactly.
And so in that case, that resi property, it's that unit block, that first one we bought, it's done so well that all the maintenance issues, there hasn't actually been any tenant issues, because you've got to mitigate that risk by just having good property management and building a good team and locations you're purchasing, and just building good trust levels with the property managers and then all their, I call them their disciples, but all their trades and things like that, so plumbers, electricians, things like that, and then building inspection pests, things like that.
Yep, that's fine. But the funny thing is, what sparked this conversation, this podcast, was you sent us a message about a month ago saying, I got the property valued, and we keep our finger on the pulse and contact clients every 6 months or so. But you got a very strong valuation on the property. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So actually, we got a valuation done last year, and
last year, okay, so it's even shorter.
Well, we had it done. So there was actually a second one. So we got one done end of last year, just to kind of, hey, where's this property at? We'd spoken to the agents in the area, and they said, it's jumped a lot. There's nothing around, and we got a valuation of 1.2 million, and we thought, that's pretty good. That's that's 2.5 years.
50% growth in 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years. We thought, that's pretty good. We still had the existing lease. That lease still had another 6-9 months to go. And so, we thought, we'll get another valuation done when we sign the lease. And obviously this valuation will be done after the painting. I went over there earlier this year for work. I was visiting some other clients and I just happened to drive past the property and the tenants were in there, and I sort of just went in there and kind of ignorant, and then it was interesting talking to them.
Not allowed to do that, by the way, but we've all done it. We've all done it. I've done it on my properties as well.
But what I gather from that is, they're very sticky. They're not moving.
Yeah.
And so then Gareth, he engaged the property manager, the leasing company, Ray White, to re-sign the lease, see what we can get, and the lease went from, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, the last rate I think was $91 a square metre, and the lease went to $140 a square metre. Yeah. So massive uplift, huge uplift. And I've just seen the first owner's receipt, and it's like nearly $7,000, and I think our mortgage is about $4,000. Yeah. So it's making $3,000 a month positive, which is just pretty awesome. Really, really happy with that. But we then decided to get a valuation done
because of the new lease.
Because the new lease,
fresh, new square metre,
and it's a really good lease. So it's a 3-year lease, then market rent review, then another 3 years, and then I think there's actually another market rent review in another 3 years. So very happy tenant, very sticky. They don't want to move. Their sort of business is really is location driven. So they're not going to move. Now, one other thing we worked out when we were doing our due diligence on this property is we found that there's actually a new train station being built. And that was due to open in May 2025, which lined up with, obviously, with the getting the valuation done. So the new valuation came in at 1.6 million.
Yeah. So double in 3 years.
Yeah, so we doubled our money in 3 years, which is just phenomenal because this investment hasn't cost us anything. Yeah. There's no outgoings, there's a finance cost, and that's it. So obviously the cap rate,
not even holding costs almost, because it's just looking after itself. It was positive.
It just looks after itself, and obviously because the valuation's gone up so much, the cap rate's dropped quite considerably. But the cap rate on our original purchase price is just phenomenal. The
cap rate for what it is now actually has no effect on you, because you got the uplift. You got in before the thing. So it's like, even with the rental increase now, I've done our numbers, but it was 6.3%. Now it's probably 7%.
Yep.
And this is a point I always say on the podcast is, like, people go out, and we had this chat off air as well about, why would you go buy a really, really regional warehouse to chase a 7% when you could have bought a property at 6.3% that's doubled in value and is now yielding more than that anyway?
Yep.
So are you telling me that commercial properties can grow? Is that a fact?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is phenomenal growth. And look, Perth's tight. It's a good location. The replacement cost, if you had to rebuild that warehouse, you're going to be 10, 15 Ks further out. And, the actual cost to build it's probably going to be that number anyway. So, look, really, really happy with it. And, we got there because our hand was held by Palise Property, by yourself and Liam, to make that deal happen. And there's a little bit of trepidation at the time. We really needed, we needed some guidance, and we got some great guidance. And that's been a phenomenal property. Really, really happy.
In all seriousness, it'll keep going as well. Like cap rates in Perth are still coming down, like to the point there's stuff all stock at the moment, and agents are working their bums off to find deals to sell. Yeah. And then there's buyers agents like me who are willing to buy, other buyers agents want to buy, other investors want to buy. That'll keep coming down. I actually foresee it coming down to about 4%. Yep. So there's another I can see another 30% growth for you, minimum.
Absolutely. And I, to be honest, even when we signed that lease, the market's moving so fast. I think it was probably undervalued when we signed it.
People always get caught up on that, but in the grand scheme of things, when you look at how you've made $800,000, chasing an extra $4,000 a year return on your rent is not the thing.
Yeah,
Keeping that tenant and not having them leave for 3 months to get a new tenant in 3 years' time, it's more powerful anyway. So.
Exactly. And so we're not investors that sell properties generally. And I know people think, oh, you should, but I just, the tax burden in this country is too high.
Yeah.
Even if you're getting a CGT discount, that's ridiculous, because a lot of other countries, you go to New Zealand, you're never paying CGT on anything. So for me, I find it really difficult to stomach that tax burden.
The only reason I say to people sell is if you think you're missing an opportunity cost. So i.e. like you might have a big residential property that's grown, doubled in value in 3 or 4 years. And having it sit there, not giving the yield when your goal becomes a passive income goal, that doesn't match your thing.
So for us, our strategy's changed a bit.
But this commercial is the best of both worlds. You've had capital growth and cash flow, so why are we selling?
Exactly. And we wouldn't, we can use that money to just buy further properties. And so our strategy is basically just to pull equity out and just keep going. And so we can only buy 2 types of property for that strategy to work. We can only buy commercial property, or we can only buy residential property that's going to yield higher than 7% gross.
Okay.
It's got to be over. If it's not 7% gross, we're not going to be able to keep buying properties.
Which is what you've done. So you bought the apartment block, got the commercial. Then the next one you can go into, that's another apartment.
Yeah. So no, we actually went SMSF.
True.
So we're like, well, we were actually going to buy a commercial through SMSF, and then we just felt that Albury had there's too many opportunities going on in the unit block space. So we bought a really good 4x2, negotiated that down to 1,035,000. We just got a valuation done on that. That's a 1.6. So look, it's growing, but it hasn't grown quite anywhere near like what we saw out of the two properties.
No one can pick the market. If anyone comes to Palise property thinking I can get every property to double every 3 years, no.
It's a mug's game. And so you've just got to diversify, but always follow the fundamentals. And the first thing with any property investment is look at a fucking map. Number one. And so then I was like, okay, well, why don't we get into the Melbourne market? Because that's gonna So we got into the Melbourne market. So after we bought this 4x2, I think that was 2023. Gosh, I can't even remember. And then couldn't really do it. We tried to buy another unit block in Albury again. Really, God, it was I was still a bit gutted we didn't get it. Just got led down the garden path with a broker that kind of, just led us down the garden path. And I think finding a good broker, that's your most important factor in property investment.
Can't buy unless you got finance.
Exactly, and you've got to be ruthless. You've got to go through brokers. You just got to be ruthless, because what happens is good brokers get popular and then they get tardy, and so you just got to find another one because they just get too busy. So we've gone through a lot of brokers. Same
as buyers agents, same as property managers.
Exactly.
They're all same.
This
is going to sound bad. I've ruined some property managers' service because I've sent them too many leads. So because like a commercial property manager can in reality manage maybe 50, 60 good commercials. If I send them, say, 50 in a year, they're done. Then they've got to hire a 22-year-old kid and try to train him, and then he becomes a property manager. And you can see the service. So we actually have to change every few years. So the property manager we recommend.
And I've got a great property manager in Albury, great property manager down in Victoria, and then obviously the over in Perth, they've been good. But there's been a bit of churn, but it's the brokers that's been the biggest challenge, and I'd love to have one broker relationship, decades and just work with one broker, but it's just, you have to shop around, because because they've all got quite different ideas.
There are also little levels of expertise in certain things as well. One of the brokers I'm working with at the moment, he's got a bank that isn't even on the other lenders' panels. So I've spoken to other brokers like, no, I won't do that, but we're getting loans with it. I'm like, okay, there's another option.
And the thing is with, it's okay to go to a bloody freaking 10th tier lender just to get into the market. And it's okay to pay an hourly MI just to get into the market, because some markets are moving so fast that you just need to do what you can do to get into that market. And that is sacrifice and being ruthless. And so Melbourne, we decided after this unit block, well, why don't we buy a house? And so we bought a house in Melbourne, And look, it's grown a little bit. It hasn't been spectacular. We knew that it wasn't going to be spectacular. We knew it was going to flatline.
The buzz of Melbourne's growing though. Like every second buyer's agent, his dog's starting to buy there. So there'll be an inflated false floor coming soon.
It'll inflate. And I was talking to the agent the other day and he said it's like you can't buy the property like what you bought now.
Yeah.
At all.
Yep.
There's just none.
Well, what was the premise of buying a house as opposed to going to another unit block?
Just to diversify our, the property assets we have, just to, and not only diversify, but also to kind of, we're big believers of you have to do the work. You have to kind of go through the process to understand. You can't, follow what, you have to just do it yourself. So if we want to do a development, we've got to do it ourselves, know. That's the best way to learn. And so we might do a townhouse development there. Not sure. We actually bought the property and we thought, let's put a granny flat on. Yep. It's actually quite hard to finance granny flats, as we've found. And the problem is if we got the finance to do the granny flat, we'd probably just go and buy something else, another property,
If you've got the money to do the granny flat, you might as well try to look for a big granny flat, i.e. a whole house.
Yeah, exactly. And so we just let that sit and it's kind of done its thing. It hasn't, it's moved up a little bit, but we just wanted to be in a major city market. And then a few months after that, we were like, let's, talk to the brokers, see what else we can get. And somehow the brokers, we had a great broker and he managed to, basically that Albury property doubled. Yep. So the unit block that we bought in Albury had basically doubled on paper. Yep. I'm not sure if it's doubled in real life, but it had doubled in paper.
Doesn't matter. Even if it's out by 20%, it's still a good outcome. It's still your whole working career worth of savings from signing one bit of paper.
Exactly, Stephen. So we actually bought this unit block in regional Victoria. Look at a map. It's by a train line. It's by a motorway. It's almost commutable to Melbourne. Definitely commutable to the outskirts of Melbourne. So we thought, well, why would you buy in the middle of frickin' nowhere in Queensland or South Australia or Western Australia when you can buy these properties cheaper? They're actually close to employment and close to infrastructure. So we bought another unit block. It was 4 one-bedroom units, and I'm sort of a bit circumspect about one-bedroom units, but actually it's been fine. And they yield better than 2-bedroom units.
Was the fear with the one-bedrooms just the quality of tenant?
Just quality of tenants.
Because it's not like you're buying in like Mossman, a high blue-chip area, one-bedroom where you're going to get a young professional couple. I imagine that price point, it's slightly lower socioeconomic.
But, the tenants have been fine, and as got a good property manager there as well. And as Sharon says, you just got to make sure the tenants get on. Yeah. You've got to find, there's no point getting like, some young people and then some 70-year-olds or something like that. You've got to kind of have something that, so she works pretty hard on making sure she gets the right tenants.
And one of my ones in the past, the tenant got bashed by the next door neighbour. Stuff like that happens. And they're all the horror stories. I haven't seen any horror stories. Maybe we've just been lucky. So we bought that property and it was literally like $0 down. Yeah. And it was 7.2% gross yield day off the bat. And actually, I've just said to the property manager yesterday, hey, we probably should get the rents up on those. The passing rent was so great when we bought it. So that's been doing really well. So we've actually got another unit block in the same area under offer right now for one-bedroom, close to for the train station and things like that. Again, 7.2% gross yield. So hopefully we'll settle that later this month. This is probably a bit of a personal question because you're obviously doing this as a joint venture with Gareth under a company structure. Are you guys exploring your personal investing outside of that? Like obviously if you've got servicing, because as interest rates come down, Hamish's serviceability might go up and then you can actually purchase by yourself, or is it just the strategy, let's just go all in together? So
no, we've bought most of the properties under our personal names apart from the commercial property. And typically you should buy your sort of loss-making properties under your names and your properties.
But they're not loss-making properties.
Under a company structure. Yeah, exactly. But so we have thought about structures a lot. And so pretty much from now on, we won't be buying.
Gareth's also an accountant, so
he's already set all the structures
he definitely
up.
Knows, yeah.
Yeah, he knows it well. So pretty much every property purchase from now on will be under like company names and things like that. And look, the biggest advantage of doing that is you can hide your debt.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of disadvantages
We just signed a letter
too.
saying it's a profit-making
Yeah,
company.
and it's just an accountant's letter. And, it's a profit-making entity or
So you're allowed to sign his own letters?
No.
I was going to say, surely he's got to
can't sign
tap
your
a
own
mate
letters.
on the shoulder being like, trust me.
But banks don't actually, they won't go into the tax returns, the financials of that. So that's the best strategy to just keep, to be able to keep buying properties. And you can still do personal names. You can still sandwich stuff, but you just can't keep buying under your personal name. So we will buy other properties under our names.
Yeah, or a principal place of residence
sense.
down the track and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I will PPOR. I don't like stuff. Yeah. I don't like material possessions.
Yeah, we had this chat. So same as me.
It's just a millstone on my neck if I have a house. So we do think about the funding a lot. And pretty much everything's going to need to be company
from now on. Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on from this is probably the hardest question: is what's the plan? Like 3 years, 5 years? Is it at the moment just accumulation, or is
it's just accumulate, Steve?
Okay.
Obviously, there's not really a 3, 5, 10 year plan. The plan is just keep accumulating.
Yep.
We just keep looking at everything. If it makes sense, we go for it.
Yep.
So that's not saying no to anything.
Yep.
Even though we've got preconceived views on apartments, individual units, things like that, they actually may make sense in some situations.
You understand them as well, because
we understand
it's your niche now. You understand exactly how to operate and what price to pay, what yield you need to achieve, and the maintenance issues. So that's your niche now.
And a lot of times you've got to educate real estate agents as well, because they'll be selling a house and then they'll be selling a unit block, and the people that buy unit blocks are looking for quite different things than say someone just buying a house. So it's a lot of coaching agents to try and get a better price and those sorts of things,
what I love about you guys as well is you're actually enjoying the process. Like when people say, I hate property investing, I'm doing it. It's a long slog. You're going to be doing it for 10, 20, 30 years.
It's not easy.
Might as well enjoy the process.
Yeah.
If you don't, I don't care if you use me as a buyer zone, go find another buyer zone and just pay them to do it. Like why you go spend the time on the stuff you actually enjoy.
Yeah, and we enjoy it. And
you love it. Like
we do love it. And look, Resi's, we find Resi fairly straightforward, and we're pretty comfortable with commercial now as well. We spend, we've been talking probably half an hour a day for the last 3 years about property. And then every Saturday or Sunday, we do a big deep dive all day.
Yeah.
And this is what you've got to do. If you want to get ahead, if you want to make some money, you've got to do the work. You can't just kind of go, where can I buy and make some money? You've actually got to sacrifice. And look, I live in a pretty crappy house in Ermington. It's unrenovated. I pay $480 a week.
Yeah.
I save half my income. It's a bit of sacrifice, but I'm sure in a few years' time I'll be looking back and going, it was well worth it.
You could do it now. Like you guys could sell up, close up shops, and you could buy a really nice $2 million house, and be completely fine, semi-retired. So I want to touch on that. You raise a good point. Like people think like property investing, it's easy, buy a house, let it grow. No, every person I've had on this couch especially has spent so many hours, half hour a day for years and a whole day on the weekend. Like no one that they've interviewed has done it just fallen on and been like, I'm just going to buy a commercial. Even the people that come to me have already spent watching stupid videos of me for 15 hours on a course and read my book. That's just to even start the process. And then they go through the learning curve of buying a property. Like it's not just like shares where you buy and hope for the best.
It's all involving and encompassing. I mean, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I've gone from a position of being so anti-property and to just, right on balls deep. We're only just starting. We've got a lot to do. We've got a lot of plans even just this year. Mm-hmm. But we expect to be able to just keep buying and really scale.
So is it kind of, you said you got another apartment block you're hoping to get. Is that this kind of general strategy now? Is this apartment block, house, and then the commercial and just to see what opportunities come up?
Probably no more houses. I mean, and this is the problem, I think, a lot of buyers agents, they'll go on about, you got to buy a house to get this capital growth, but they don't tell you that you can't actually buy anymore. If you buy a house that you're tipping $20,000 or $30,000 a year into, guess what? You can't buy more. And this is what people don't tell you. It's all very well to have, this amazing growth of this house in Rockhampton or whatever. But, you've got to basically be tipping in. And when you're tipping in money, you're sitting out of the market. It's opportunity cost. And so our view is we've got to keep buying. We've got to keep being in that market. We've got to keep making transactions. We can't slow down. And if we have to, we're tipping all this money in, it's just an opportunity cost.
It's also just nonsense. I see lots of buyers agents, they're always just like, oh, here, this Coles worker bought 5 properties in 3 years, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, you didn't, because just like if you earn $100,000 a year, for instance, most lenders will only generally go 5 to 12 times your income.
Yep.
So let's say the high end, 12 times your income, they can borrow 1.2 mil.
Yep.
So unless they're saving big chunky deposits, like maximum they're going to have a 1.6, 1.7. Still fantastic for someone earning $160,000 a year, and then hopefully it doubles and so. But they're not actually doing it. It's just lies. And then you Google that person's name and all of a sudden they work for the buyer's agent now and they're probably earning $300,000 a year.
And that's a good point, Steve. Like there's so much bullshit out there, and look, like Pyrex principle, 80% of people, look, 20% of the world are doing that, same as buyer's agents, 80% of them shit dog shit. Yeah. There's only 20% I'd go near. Yeah. And the same with a lot of these stories that people tell you. You never hear the full story. Yeah. You never hear, I got $100,000 hander, or I did this. Or you never hear that they actually work for a buyer's agency.
Their partner's a surgeon.
Or their partner's a surgeon or whatever. You never hear and so, I always watch these podcasts and then I'm always scratching my head going, that's not adding up. Like how do they buy 10 houses that lose this amount of money? There's something there that we're not seeing. Yeah. And so that's why our strategy is obviously the commercial and then just unit blocks.
But even my social media strategy, because I'm the same as you, I get pissed off when I see bullshit. So mine, and this probably we saw the podcast and the books and stuff. I try to write it just boring academic of here's the fundamentals, go where you need to from that. But all the other ones just this client got a 10 mil portfolio in 5 years. It's all nonsense.
Exactly.
It's absolute nonsense.
It's all bloody snake oil salesman stuff.
And you're taking your advice from a 2-minute TikTok clip.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, the whole buyer's agent industry, do people even trust these people? Like I couldn't see myself giving $20,000 to some pimply-eyed guy, pimply spotted-faced guy that just doesn't know anything.
They do though. I'm baffled by that as well because I know most of the buyers agents now, and I see how many deals they're doing per month. And there's a buyer's agent out there who bought 2 dud properties himself, went bankrupt, then started a buyer's agency because he wanted to help people not make that mistake. Yeah. And now he's doing 20, 30 deals a month, and I'm just like, that doesn't add up. Why are we trusting the guy who couldn't get it right himself?
Well, exactly. And I think what it is, Steve. Like, I think it's just laziness. I think, like, the reason why we've got so many buyer's agents is people are just lazy. People don't want to do the work. Yeah. And, I think for, some people just don't have the time, but there's people that they just don't want to do the work.
Like I said, I'm yet to meet anyone who's got a big sizable portfolio that hasn't done the education. And like I read every single book in store, like every single one. Then I went to every seminar and like there was just years of grafting to learn the craft. Yeah. Whereas people now they want the quick fix of like, do my quick 1-hour online course and we'll tell you how to buy the best product. Yeah. It's not that easy.
And the thing is, like everything in life, experience gives you that ability to be able to do stuff, to make decisions quickly, to be able to look at something and go, that's a good deal or that's a bad deal.
You said it perfectly. Is like the experience. Like you can read all my books in the world, but doing it, but you're still going to learn from experience. Like I hate saying this on camera because I get in trouble for it, but like I've done 2,000 deals and I still learn stuff every week. Yeah. Well, so it's like, I'm like, if I'm still learning, you're definitely going to be learning. Well,
exactly. I'll give you an example, negotiating. Yeah. So one of my key questions when I negotiate with a property is, what non-financial drivers does the vendor have? And I'll tell you that Albury property, the reason we got that.
That's probably more important as well for apartment blocks as well, because they're a bit of an obscure owner. They're not normally mum and dads who are just looking to downsize or upsize.
Exactly. And so, but some of these owners have got relationships with some of these tenants, because what I find with the unit block is you do have really long-term tenants, people that will just never move. And which is great.
Is that because you're buying in the lower priced areas? So it's obviously most of the time it might be a local that owns it as opposed to someone international interstate investor.
And I think that's fair. But one of the reasons we actually managed to get this unit block under market is because I asked the agent that question, what non-financial drivers are there? And agent said, old John's been in Unit 2 for frickin' 15 years or something like that, and he's 85.
Yeah.
And the vendors, well, they were old too. They were like well into their 70s.
Yeah.
And so I basically just said to the agent, we'll put an offer in and then we'll just put a little note. Obviously, we can't put this in an offer, but we'll commit to this. We won't put the rent up in John's unit for 12 months.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah,
And that got it over the line.
Yeah. I wonder if that was the owner just being like, "That's a really good feel good," or it was just his mate, and he's like, "I'm going to protect my mate here,"
or a bit of both potentially. But just thinking of some of these ways that you can actually negotiate and get things over the line.
Yeah, it's funny. So I just sold out a townhouse in Waterford West in the Logan area of Brisbane. It was one of my early purchases. I got it for 180. I just sold it for 380. So again, who says townhouses can't grow in value? The lady had been there since it was built. So she was about 75. And even I noticed when I bought it, the rent was way under, but the place was immaculate. And I didn't put up the rent. I just left it because she's a good tenant. And she's always paid probably $50 under. And I know it's stupid and I tell clients don't do that. You're not being a charity, but I got a feel good out of it. So I just left it there and she was really nice and she'd call me directly. If someone had put an offer on that property and it was the same price and someone said, I won't kick Joan out, I'll let her stay there under market around $50, I probably would have done that one as a feel good.
Well, and also if you've got like a long-term relationship, that tenant, and actually
she was my eyes and ears. So for the body corporate and stuff, anytime there was a remote issue, she was on the phone, Steve, they're doing this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yep, cool, thank you.
And actually just on property managers, just how important it is to have a good relationship with property managers, obviously commercial, but also residential, because the last bloody thing you want to do as a property investor is ever manage a bloody property.
Yeah.
Because life's hard enough dealing with your own issues, let alone dealing with other people's, and I cannot understand these people that manage properties. I just go, you just get brain damage from it.
So funny, that the reason I had a relationship with her is because my property manager was terrible. So she then contacted me and then I built the relationship with her. So I was still paying a property manager, but I was doing the management. So you're saying like, make sure you have a property manager, because if you don't have that, then it's all carnage.
Yeah, and I remember this place I bought in Melbourne, the bloody real estate agent introduced us to the tenant. I'm like, I basically had to tell the real estate agent, because he was also going to manage the place, don't introduce me to the tenant. I don't want to meet the tenant. That's your job.
It creates like a nice kind of wall between you and them, so they can't pull on your heartstrings and things like that. So I know I've just said for mine, I've got the heartstrings pulled, but it stops that, because if like, oh, this is a market rent, we're putting up to this, they can't be like, oh, please. Like it just
exactly. And I think actually I actually learned that from one of your podcasts.
Oh, really?
God, it might have been the second or third commercial one. And
for commercial especially.
I think you told a tenant that you owned it or something like that, and then I think it just gave you no end of trouble.
Because they just cry poor all the time.
Yeah.
And then I've had a property before where the guy turned up, I can't remember what it was, not a Lambo for it was one of like a sports car. And he was crying poor the month before about paying rental increases. And when I went to the property, his Lambo was out the front. I was just like, I'm missing something here.
Exactly. So that was a good lesson. Just with property you got to get good property managers.
So I like the tip. So let's go back on that. So find out what the non-financial incentives are for buying a property for apartment blocks. Is there anything else with apartments you find kind of works, or is it just, or any rules of thumb? Is it, do you just chase yield? Do you look at the quality? Do you look at, for apartments, you mentioned like it's near a train station. Is that more important for an apartment block, or are you buying away?
I just, I think it's important to be close to infrastructure. Always train lines, motorway entrances, things like that. If you're in a sort of centre that's got that sort of infrastructure, obviously you just got to be well amenitied. You just got to look for well amenitied locations.
I imagine, especially for one bedders as well, because if they're living there, like a lot of times they're not going to always have cars and things like that. They need the bus stops and the train stations.
And that's the interesting thing with this place we're buying at the moment. It's much closer to the city centre than the other place we've got. And so the rents are actually, even though it's not renovated, rents are similar, but a lot of the tenants don't have cars. So you're typically going to get older sort of tenants, things like that for those sorts. And they're good sticky tenants as well. Yeah. But look, another thing I've learned is sexy doesn't make you money. You got to buy unsexy. You got to buy stuff you're not going to live in. You got to buy stuff that unsexy makes money. You know, I work for a chemical company. That's very unsexy. My boss he owns half a Rydalmere. So, you know, unsexy, but it makes some serious money. And same with any unsexy properties. You know, that lower quartile property yields the best, but it also goes up the most in value.
Well, we had this chat before as well. I feel like the lower priced ones typically do outperform the high priced ones.
Yep.
So why are we buying high priced ones? And there is an answer to that. Obviously, like some people don't want to own 10, 500 grand ones. So owning a couple, $1, $2, $3 million ones makes sense.
Yep.
But prime example, everything you've touched is just almost doubled.
Well, I prefer the flexibility of just having multiple cheaper, lower quartile properties. And I like the units because if you've got to own the whole unit block. Because it just gives you a lot more flexibility around rent increases, renovations, options of stratering, things like that. For
do you have a rule of thumb? So when I used to buy apartment blocks, I haven't bought many recently, but when I used to buy them, basically I used to work out what the cost of one unit was, and then times it by how many there are, and then go for typically a 10 to 15% discount. And a lot of people are like, oh, get 20, get 30. Those days are kind of gone in good area. Do you have a rule like that, or no? Just focus on the yield a little bit more.
Yeah, just focus on the yield. Just focus. Like I just don't think. And I think actually I was talking to Terry Ryder at your event a couple of months ago, and he mentioned that actually that you used to buy unit blocks and you'd look for a discount versus buying individually. I just don't think it's the case anymore.
Well, it was a softer market back then. So I'm talking 5 to 10 years ago, it was a softer market. So if my rationale was like, well, if you're getting in, you want to get some value. Otherwise, arguably it's better off to buy 3 or 4 individual units in different locations with different body corporates. But like you said, you've got more control when you own it, and then you can paint it, renovate it, and get the uplift that way.
Own the whole thing, and then you've got a specific types of construction as well. So now I'd probably try and err for even more utilitarian stuff. Yep. So I joke that I like to buy toilet blocks and convert them to unit blocks because that's what they look like. You know, and so you got cinder blocks, you've just got skillion roofs, you've just got nothing that can really go wrong. And try and buy properties with no trees or no trees near the property because
good one,
one thing I've learned, plumbing is your biggest cost. Roofing, but just frickin' piping under toilets, bathrooms, and just trees. You know, if you've got big trees near your unit block, you're going to have some expensive plumbing bills because those roots love to smash through pipes.
Also, just the leaks constantly in gutters. One of them gets blocked, and then as you've seen, especially in like Sydney, that big downpours for a month or two, then it overflows into it, and then it becomes a mold problem, and then you're replacing more, and it's just
exactly. And so, you know, the tree thing, makes the property look a bit better, but the maintenance costs, it really increases your maintenance.
But like you said, who cares if it looks better or not?
And that's the thing is, Steve, this is all moot. Because these properties have gone up so much that I don't actually care what the maintenance is. They're just, I mean, they're a bit of work, you know, there's a lot going on. But, you know, it's all moot to me. So the next thing will be, I think after this unit block, it's right, let's go back to another commercial. We're looking to spend quite a bit this time. So the place we bought with you was 830. We'd probably look to be spending double to triple that for the next
good options in that.
And we think there's some good options in that. There's some good equity. So all these purchases I'm doing right now, I'm not using any equity from Perth. So that
you've still got that in the back pocket.
Still got that sitting in the back pocket. That's the next cab off the rank. And I guess worth talking about funding, finance, things like that. I guess like commercial property, the biggest benefit of commercial property is just the set and forget. You just got money coming in. You know, there's no tenant. There's no tenants you need to deal with. There's no plumbing repairs or roof repair or any of that sort of stuff. It's just forget about it. The problem is, a big challenge is just finance. Commercial property, you got to do 20% generally. Well, probably some lenders 30%.
A couple of lenders doing 20, but most 30. If you go in lease stock, 6%, you get around 30%. If you start going down to the 5s and things like that, then it becomes a 35, 40%. It's the big chunk.
And so the problem is just I guess what we've found is the challenge accessing that money. Like, resi, you can put 10% down, you can put 0% down, you just, get some equity. And whereas
but this funny enough, one of the biggest takeaways today I was going to kind of finish up on was that's because your strategy is being really clear cut of like, I'm going to buy these apartment blocks and get 7% gross because it's not going to stop me getting the next one.
Yeah.
And you're doing that because you know that niche of the affordable apartment blocks. And that's why I wouldn't say that. And we had this chat as well. Like, I wouldn't go out and buy a 7.5% commercial for you just because I can get a lease doc loan, because then we wouldn't have had the outcome that you had.
Yeah.
So then that's the biggest thing for you and that's why you guys are so successful and why you haven't just stopped at number 2 is because you're mindful of that number.
And exactly. And that's obviously it's an evolution. You learn a lot. You just keep learning and you keep doing the work, keep learning. And so we've come to this position after 3 years, and that might change again. But we have found with commercial, it's a bit more rigid around finance. Whereas, obviously with resi, we can buy stuff with no money down sort of thing. But, there's obviously a lot of attendant risks there as well.
We'll have this chat as well, obviously, when we get to that purchase, and it's very hard to do for something like yours, but if we start spending 1.5, 2.5, you start looking at value add options for commercial as well, which uncuffs you a little bit.
Yep.
But then also you got to be mindful of exit strategy at the point. That's why we've said, how long? At some point, it's very unlikely you guys are going to buy 20 properties and stay LVR at 80%. Naturally, it's going to come down.
Yeah.
And then the 30% doesn't become an issue. But that's what I love about why we got you on as well with your apartment blocks. You found a way around that with effectively a commercial purchase, just one that the banks consider a residential.
Exactly. And so what these purchases have enabled, and I think hopefully by the end of this month, we're going to have, God, I don't even know. There's so many. It's like 12.
It's a good problem.
15, I think. Individual units. But that's going to enable us then to just buy more commercial and get more commercial. And we had to get over that hump. Yeah. We couldn't just off the bat keep buying commercial.
Yeah, which is fine.
And so we've found this strategy where it's enabled us to keep purchasing, but it'll enable us to purchase more commercial and bigger commercial properties.
It'll hopefully be a self-perpetuating one as well, where the rents will start building its own deposit.
Yep.
And then when the capital growth happens as well, that's how you get, and then you combine yours and Gareth's income as well, and it just keeps going. It actually weirdly gets easier with your strategy of buying high-yielding resi and commercial. Gets easier because the bigger the portfolio, all of a sudden previously you needed 30% growth to be able to pull out the equity and go again. You actually, if you've got 6 properties, you only need 5% growth and then you can buy another one and you can start steamrolling.
And this is exactly what me and Gareth spoke about. Why we went down this strategy is just this multi sort of unit strategy just gives you a lot of optionality, but also just enables you to just keep chipping away at rent increases and things like that, and just build things up, and then it just enables you to be able to. You can show the bank demonstrated experience with managing a fairly complex portfolio, and then that just gives them confidence to buy, to be able to give you more lending. And so we don't use our money anymore. We both tip in every week, but we don't actually use money.
It becomes insignificant unless you're on a very, very high income. Buying a commercial that's literally giving you, what was it, probably 80 grand, 90 grand income, like from the one, like, you saving that, it's going to take years.
Exactly. And so we've just got so much equity.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. Nearly 2 million. So much blooming equity that we don't even need to use our own. Great
outcome for a few years, like that.
Like 3 years in.
Yeah. Most people spend their whole life to try to get remotely that for retirement. Yeah. And you've done it in a few years.
But I'll mention, I was nowhere. Absolutely fucking nowhere. In March, April 2022, I had 180, 200k in my bank account, just because I'd got superannuation after I left New Zealand. But I was nowhere. Yeah, I was literally, I was going to go and buy a freaking shitty bloody unit, in Hornsby or something like that. And that would have been
work out the next 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. And so this, just going down this journey, and then obviously meeting yourself and understand the commercial, the opportunities in the commercial world, is just the doors that's opened.
Your life's changed already.
This one commercial property is life changing, but just everything else is just. And I'm at that point now where I don't actually believe in a career. I don't care about my career anymore. All I want to do is just buy more property.
This is going to sound bad. So I actually went through that same phase when I was an engineer. When I started at the time I thought I was awesome. It was like 50 grand passive income. I'm like, why am I here earning like 100 grand a year? I stopped caring about work because I was just like, this is literally just I turn up, do the minimum. I stopped working longer hours. And that's, without sounding unfair, that's the awesome thing about property for me is it makes you like reflect on what you actually enjoy doing. Like, why would you, I saw the other guys hanging back till 7, 8 p.m. working really hard. I'm like, you guys are idiots. You should be go home and look on realestate.com and do a bit of education,
make more money doing
sign
that.
A piece of paper and make 100 grand doing it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just go. The funny thing is I started getting promoted at work because they saw me as an awesome delegator and really confident.
Yeah,
In reality, I was just being lazy.
Yeah.
I was just like, get to like 4 p.m. like, sorry guys, got to head off. Oh, Jamie, do you mind doing this for me? And and they're like, oh, Steve's a good boss. Like, so weirdly, not having to be there makes you a better worker. You enjoy it more. And like I said, you're no longer a worker. It's you're an investor.
Exactly.
You're an investor.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we've
people ask you what you do. You should be saying investor.
Well, I probably should be
because you've
now.
made your whole lifetime worth of savings in 3 years by doing that.
Yeah.
So are we doing it on time or are we doing it on money? If it's on money, you're an investor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I've never actually thought about that. Actually, maybe I should just start saying.
I just thought of that. I might paid and pen that.
No, that's also I like it.
Yeah, so I think that's a good way to end.
Yeah, no, it is. And look, I mean, it's only the beginning. And look, I've got no kids I'm aware of. I don't think Gareth does either. So we're just sort of single, just bloody,
just why you
just
can
push. So yeah, I mean, we're only just starting, and I don't know. Maybe we won't even be working in a few years. Maybe we'll just be doing this full time.
Your income from working won't actually self-perpetuate the actual portfolio anyway, so you probably won't have to. But I think that's an awesome way to end it.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, what we got out of Palise property was life changing. I mean, that property has doubled.
Yeah.
And we haven't actually touched that equity yet because we've got other equity to play with, but really, really exciting what we're going to be able to do with that. And, thanks to you. I mean, I made
thanks for coming
out of you.
It's literally what you paid me for.
Yeah, so, And so that money that we paid you was it was just bloody, it was nothing. Yeah. And the whole grand scheme of things, I can't even remember what it was, 20 grand or something like that. Look what we've got out of that small 20 grand investment. Yeah. It's incredible. And we're pretty confident property investors, but we will absolutely be coming back to you. And if it's not to find a property, maybe it'll just be to do the due diligence. Yeah. We're not sure yet. But
that's awesome, mate.
It's been pretty bloody
awesome client and a massive advocate, obviously helping out and being so transparent today as well.
Yeah. So, I appreciate inviting me in here.
Thanks for coming on.
It's been awesome. Yeah.
Today we've had Hamish, not employee, investor. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.